Welcome back to the 13th episode of the Herm Cet Show, a somewhat weekly podcast where we talk about all things basketball, news, hot takes, updates. We got it all. I'm joined today by my co-host, Ethan Seton. I'm Nate Herman. E, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. You said a somewhat weekly podcast.
Yeah.
The semester is in full swing right now, so we're making it work.
Yeah, we find time when it's available. With the season coming up, hopefully we can talk about it more.
Oh, absolutely.
There'll be more things to talk about. All the games, all the preseason. Everybody loves preseason, right?
Yeah. Who doesn't love a good preseason?
Get Real Madrid come over and play
FC
a couple
Barcelona
games.
coming over.
But we're here today to predict the standings for this season. I wrapped up my preview series talking about every team, so I thought we'd tie it together and just try to predict the standings. We're going to start with the Eastern Conference because I think it's a little easier, a little less congested,
Exactly.
So we'll just get right into it. So I would say there are two clear teams at the top. I was just talking to him. I know he might not agree. But I think Boston and Milwaukee, with the star trades they just pulled off, I think have to be the top two teams. Boston, one game within the finals last year. Milwaukee, not quite the same, kind of fell apart, but they got Damian Lillard. So I think those are pretty clearly the top two. I mean, if you run through the lineups, the Celtics starting lineup is one of the best I've seen in a long time. They got Drew Holiday, Derek White, Brown, Tatum, and Porzingis. Then they got Horford off the bench with some other guys who aren't quite as good. Their depth isn't what it used to be.
They have Luke Cornett still,
They got
right?
Lamar Stevens, former Cav.
Wow, Sam Hauser.
And the Bucks have four good players. Who's their fifth starter? We don't know. But Dame, Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Brook Lopez, that's locked in.
Okay.
Maybe you want to start Bobby Portis at the three. Who knows what's going on?
That's a
over
USA
there in
basketball player right there.
Yeah, so we don't know what's up in Milwaukee. But is there a team you want to make a case for as number one?
I'd say you definitely have to go Milwaukee now.
Milwaukee at
just
one.
With how strong they're going to be with Damian Lillard and Giannis. I think that they're going to be the clear favorites for number one. We'll see early how Damian Lillard pairs with Giannis. I think they're going to try a lot of things.
Yeah, for sure.
But right now, I think our clear number one has to be Milwaukee.
We can run Milwaukee at one, and then you're going Boston at two.
Even though Blake Griffin might retire, I think we have to go Boston at two.
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to do. But just speaking on it for a second, I love the Dame Giannis pick and roll. Might be the most unstoppable pick and roll we've seen in a long time. You go under, Dame's pulling from 30, and if you try to go one-on-one with Giannis at the rim, that's probably not going to end well. So will be a very exciting duo. But as we move into tier two, there's a few teams that are probably in here. Probably Philadelphia is still in there. Who knows what's up with James Harden, but they got Maxey. They got 20-point-per-game scorer, Kelly Oubre. They got Joel Embiid. All the guys over there, reigning MVP. Probably the Cavs are in that group, were the fourth seed last season, added some shooting. It was a much-needed hole for them that I think they addressed pretty well. I like the Knicks offseason, a couple of, kind of ancillary pieces around the outside, but Dante DiVincenzo, the Nova boys out there. They were the 5 seed last year, probably around there. And then Miami is probably in that second tier as well. I think they're on the fringe of third tier. I've been blunt about it before. I don't think losing your starting backcourt when you were the 8th seed last season is exactly what you want to see. But, Miami always finds a way. But who would you argue for number 3 out here?
Well, just firstly, before I argue for number 3, this is really tough going from the top rather than the bottom here because, I can easily...
Yeah, we can call the bad teams.
I can trash on some teams here, but now I have to actually put my thinking cap on and try to figure out who is going to be dominating this year because, people say we're negative on the podcast.
I had someone tell me I was too positive the other way.
Oh, really?
So we're really flipping both ways here.
We're going to be balancing this out. Perfect. That's why we need a little Herm Cet Show negativity back in these people's
really
lives.
Balances everything.
Okay, number 3. I said before we started recording, I'm a big Cleveland guy for number 3. I just don't know how things are going to go in Philadelphia.
Hard to read.
It's hard to judge right now, but I think Cleveland, they're still strong. They've really in the past 2 years especially, minus their playoff
that was awful.
woes.
The lights were brighter than expected.
The lights were brighter than expected. Okay, Jared Allen. I'm arguing for Cleveland at 3 just because of how they've been in the past few years. I think, Jared Allen.
Yeah.
I think he's fantastic, and he's going to give them a big boost. And then Donovan Mitchell, of course, is going to be
first team All-NBA last season.
Yeah, I mean he's
should have been. I think he was second, right? Luka.
I'm trying to.
I think Luka got it.
Yeah, I know he was an All-NBA team. I think
he was second. I think Shea and Luka were first. He was second.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
But Donovan Mitchell, All-NBA player. Jared Allen, just one of the best defenders around the rim in the league. I'm arguing for either their 3 and 4 spot, so it's up to you.
I mean, Darius Garland, one of the best offensive creators in the league. Evan Mobley is one of the best defenders in the league already.
Yeah,
was top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year voting as a sophomore, so very impressive for Mobley. And they added shooting, Georges Niang, Max Strus, all the guys.
Paid them the bag.
Brought back Karis LeVert, drafted Amani Bates. So they really,
I was thinking about Amani Bates yesterday, actually. Yeah. That's a random thought process. But I was in the car.
Yeah.
I was driving back from the golf course, actually. And I said, I wonder how Amani Bates is going to do.
He's a hooper's hooper. Everybody loves
Everybody
Amani
knows
Bates.
him, bro.
I'm down to throw Cleveland at 3.
Okay.
And then I think there's actually a legit argument, if you wanted to make it, that you could argue the Knicks over the Sixers. I think it could be had because of how good Jalen Brunson is. He was great for them last season. But I'll give Philly the benefit of the doubt. I really like their starting 5 if Harden comes back. You got Harden, Maxey, Oubre, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid.
Yeah,
it's really
consistent.
Good. So we'll see what happens with Harden. Media days tomorrow. We'll see how he goes with that. But
he's gonna wear the fat suit.
They would be a team I think would be interested in Brogdon if they could somehow get Harden in on that, but I'll go Philadelphia at 4. And then I think when you're looking at the 5 spot, maybe there's 3 teams in on it. It depends how high you are on Indiana. Indiana was really good last year before Halliburton went down.
I have a number for Indiana.
So I think it's New York, Miami, or Indiana. So whichever team you're thinking.
I had Indiana at 7.
Okay, we can roll with that. We can once again give Miami the benefit of the doubt. Heat culture. You see, they have a jersey that says Heat culture on it.
Are you sure?
For this season. Yeah.
No, I did not see
it's
that.
It's the corniest thing I've seen.
Did you see the released the unreleased Mavericks jersey?
Yeah, they're better than the Bulls ones though. The Bulls ones are that vertical down.
Bro, it's bad.
Yeah,
bro,
the minimalist jerseys we're at now.
Get rid of
like
those.
It.
Bring back the Adidas jerseys that ripped easily.
Nike's killing it though. In a bad way.
In a bad way, yeah. Okay, I was going to say, we'll argue about that. Yeah, Nike has just been, oh my goodness, failing.
I think I want to go New York at 5, if you're chill with that, and then we could throw Miami at 6.
No.
Yeah, because I think New York really proved themselves last season. I liked what I saw. So we'll throw Miami at 6. They lost their backcourt. All they brought back in exchange was Josh Richardson, potential starting point guard for the Miami Heat. Who knows?
No, there's going to be some random G leaguer that went to West Montana Community College that they're going to bring in. And
there's some guy who's like Jamani Bouye or something. He's going to end up be the starting point guard or something.
It's going to be
ridiculous.
Out of pocket.
They'll start Jovic at the point guard spot or something.
He's gonna, he's going to average like 7 assists, and people are going to be like, where was he? Why did we not know about him?
So you want to throw Indiana at 7?
Indiana at 7 is fair.
I like Indiana. Halliburton, Mathurin, the guys over there. I really love Obi Toppin for them. I think it's about the perfect scenario. He could have landed with Halliburton catching lobs. Buddy Hield is on the block, I guess, I heard, but, when isn't he? So, but Turner was good last year. So, one spot left that would be in the playoffs. Got to go through the play-in, but the 8 seed, we're probably looking at a few teams here. I think Atlanta is probably the one you look at first with Trey and DeJounte.
That was my pick.
Chicago's probably in the mix for that spot. It depends how they bounce back because they look good towards the end of last season when Levine started to get a little more healthy. Maybe you throw like Brooklyn in there, but they're a team that has a lot of stuff kind of holding on upside. They really need Simmons to be back. They need Cam Thomas to hit. Yeah. They kind of need Lonnie Walker to hit. They need McCall to play like he was last year.
They need a lot there's a lot of
pieces. There's a lot of ifs when you look at Brooklyn. So that's one where you're kind of like, I don't really know.
What do you think the ceiling for Brooklyn is if
everything hits? I think they could get as high as like 3 or 4. I think it's going to be tough because Ben Simmons, like people forget, was 3-time All-Star, Defensive Player of the Year candidate. So if you add him to what they already have, all of a sudden their team is much different than it looked heading into the season. And if Cam Thomas actually gets some minutes, he's kind of an animal. But
that's true. I see their ceiling at probably 5.
5 is probably fair, just because Cleveland and Philadelphia have done it. But it would be funny to me if Ben Simmons and Brooklyn were sitting ahead of Philadelphia.
That'd be awesome.
At the season's end. But I think Atlanta's probably the fair argument here, because Quinn Snyder's in there, does a great job as the head coach, and they're kind of relying on some young guys, kind of ship John Collins out for nothing. But, they got Sadiq Bey there. Jalen Johnson looked pretty good for them towards the end of last year. A.J. Griffin is good. Yeah. So I think Atlanta is okay to sit at 8. Yeah. And then I guess maybe it's 3 here. It's Bulls, Brooklyn, and then maybe Toronto. But what are you thinking for number 9?
For number 9, I think if all goes well health-wise with Zach LaVine, I think you have to slot Chicago in 9 because I don't see them not making at least the play-in tournament.
If they have some sort of injury and they're like below it at kind of the trade deadline, though, I totally think they're one of the likeliest teams to blow it up if things go poorly. Because LaVine and DeMar have kind of been like quietly being shopped for like a year now. So if they start to underperform, I'd watch out for Chicago. But I do like the upside of Chicago.
But like they're one of those teams that's always there. Like
they're kind of just lingering around.
Yeah, lingering is a great word.
It's like Washington was for a long time, where they're like, we're just gonna sit around the play-in. Maybe make it, maybe not. But I'll go Chicago at 9, and then. Toronto fans are going to hate me, but I'm going to throw Brooklyn at 10. I feel okay throwing Brooklyn at 10.
I agree.
They were okay after they traded their stars last season. Weren't great, but didn't plummet down the standings or anything. So I think even lowest case scenario, I think this is about where they are. And then the first team out, I guess the young teams maybe get in the mix here, but I'm good to just throw Toronto at 11 if you are.
That's fine.
Okay. Yeah. And then we get into the young teams, the rebuilding teams. Miles Bridges back in Charlotte. Maybe we got something going on there. Bridges and Miller, a lot of character.
I'm going to take the wheel here because I think Cole Anthony and the Orlando Magic are slotting in at 12. They're making another leap.
Yeah.
They're working.
With Fultz last season, I think they had the record of like the 6th seed in the East. So Orlando's kind of like a sneaky team to be higher than maybe you'd think right here. But Orlando, I'm totally fine with that. Second-year jump from Paolo. I think Paolo could make the All-Star game as early as this year.
Ceiling for
and then
Orlando,
Franz is good too.
I could see if Orlando, takes those 50-50 games this upcoming season, I see them in the play-in tournament.
They could totally get there. I think they're, of the teams that we had left of the 4, I totally think they're the likeliest to kind of break into that play-in range. Because they have a lot of guys there. But the biggest question for them is going to be spacing because Paolo, not a great shooter last year, especially that 1 month he shot like 3%. I remember that. It was awful. It was all over Twitter. No one would stop talking about how bad Paolo was at shooting. Yeah. Fultz's shot is getting better, but it's still not quite there. Suggs is struggling as a shooter. Anthony Black, known not a great shooter coming in.
It's going to be
Gary Harris is kind of hit or miss.
It's going to be the Wagner show.
And Jingles. They got Joe Ingles. Spacing the floor.
It's
all about
that weird
Jingles.
Lefty.
They got Mac McClung there. Sneaky young guard.
Oh, I saw. Wait. I saw that they signed the other day. DJ Wilson.
Oh,
they added him.
It's good. No. Oh, I forgot. I saw it the other day. I thought it was hilarious. Miami, right after missing out on Dame, sign R.J. Hampton as a point guard. So really, game changer in Miami. Bad turn of events.
They're going to turn R.J. Hampton's career right around.
I'll probably go Detroit here at 13. I think it's Detroit or Charlotte. I think Washington is pretty clearly the worst team in the East. No offense to Jordan Poole and the boys out there. I actually kind of like a few of their pieces, but I don't think it's their time yet. Give them a couple of years, but the Wizards' time is not right now.
Yeah.
Detroit, though, they got Cade Cunningham. Reportedly looked very good at the Team USA, kind of a warm-up with the select team. I like Jaden Ivey. It seems like he doesn't like Asar Thompson, but there's some sort of mix there.
talked about it before.
But Jalen Duren is a very good young center. I like Duren. I kind of like Wiseman. A lot of people are very angry on Wiseman. A lot of Wiseman haters out there. But I like Detroit.
I saw a Wiseman video earlier today, like right before I came here.
Yeah.
And I thought it was Wiseman because it was pretty quick. It was in an edit. But it was in that high school dunk contest.
Yeah.
That the girl won.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he was in there throwing down windmills and stuff and didn't even make it to the second round. And he did like some 360.
Yeah, I remember there was one really nasty one and the girl won.
I saw all the dunks.
It was a big deal at the time,
like,
I remember.
She threw it off the backboard with 2 hands and threw it in. And I remember like when that happened. I was like, this is ridiculous. And I didn't realize that it was James Wiseman.
No, it's crazy. Do you want to make a case for Charlotte? Or do you find
I was like, at first, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Just because, like, LaMelo Ball plays 75-plus games and makes
a big wild card if right
there. I'm just saying. The Ball family known for not being able to take care of themselves. But,
it's the shoes.
Let's say, okay. No, it's not the shoes. It's not the shoes. I have the socks. They're perfectly fine.
Yeah, no problem.
If he plays over 70 games... Because he's probably going to play 70 exactly.
Sure.
With the new...
Got to play 65 to get the award stuff. Yeah,
so he'll play 70.
Yeah.
We're arguing for the 13th seed for Charlotte, bro.
Deep conversation. If Bridges looks anything like he did 2 years ago, probably Charlotte's better than this. Because he was a 20-point-per-game scorer the year before. So.
Where did Detroit finish last year?
I think they were either 15 or 14.
Yeah, 15 or 14.
But they had no Cade. He played like 6 games or something.
Okay, but do you still see...
We can go Charlotte. That's fine.
I'm not trying to argue. I'm just saying that Asar Thompson is going to lift them up.
I like some of the guys. They got Terry Rozier. I think Miller could be kind of quietly all right. And Mark Williams is a good young center. I like Mark Williams, so that's fine. We can throw them there. I think Detroit has some upside. And then Washington, I think with, Tyus Jones, Poole, Kuzma, Daniel Gafford. I think they're the worst.
I think the most excited I'm going to be when we come up and watch games is those Washington They're going to
be fun. I talked about that with them the other day. They might not be fun. They might not be good, but they're going to be very fun.
There's going to be no game plan whatsoever. It's going to be just freelance basketball.
It's like the Rockets from the past 2 years. We're just running AAU hoops out here.
Basically.
Corey Kispert, though, like 43% from 3 last year. Kind of sneaky. He's pretty good. I'd like if Denny Avdia was any better. Would be nice, but we'll see.
Before you go on,
I
have a very small list of NBA players I follow on Instagram.
Okay.
I like a lot of NBA players. I'm an NBA fan.
Yeah, Matteo Spagnolo is one.
Matteo Spagnolo, my favorite. But Denny Avdia is on that short list just because I am rooting for that dude. He's going to make an all-star team someday.
I'm rooting for Johnny Davis because I was very critical of him last year. So if he does better, I would be happy. Okay. But we can move to the West. This depends here. I don't know if Phoenix is a great regular season team.
They aren't.
I am more than willing to just give Denver the benefit of the doubt and put them 1.
I'm happy to put Denver
Okay,
1.
yes. I think Jokic is the best player in the league. I'm totally cool putting Denver 1. And then when you look at number 2, if you look at any betting site right now, you look at win totals, there's a pretty clear top 4 in the West. It's Denver, it's Phoenix, it's the Lakers, and it's the Warriors. They're pretty much the betting top 4 on every site. So if you're looking at number 2, it's probably one of those 3 teams. The Lakers were a conference finals team last year, and by all impressions got better in the offseason. So I think that's a positive one there. Phoenix, 3 stars at the top. I don't love Nurkic for them. I'm not sure what that deal was. I think Ayton was better. Yeah. It was a chemistry thing, probably, if anything. But I'd rather they had Ayton. I'd feel a little better about him, probably. Unless you're big on Grayson Allen. I don't really know.
Oh, love Grayson Allen.
Everybody loves Grayson Allen.
Yes. Duke. Come on, baby.
And then, to be fair to the Warriors, Curry missed some time last year, and Wiggins missed a ton of time last year. So getting those 2 guys back who were both All-Stars the year prior to last year, All-Star starter Andrew Wiggins, maybe they're back in that race. But who do you want to go with at number 2? We'll try not to be biased here. But...
Right. Well, I am actually a lot different than you when it comes to this list. Because I see a completely different top
Dude.
You know, you didn't even mention Memphis.
Yeah, Ja's missing 25 games, man. 25 games.
They're in the top 5 at least.
They're probably up there. I actually sneaky really like Sacramento too. I think Sacramento's kind of getting disrespected because I was looking at it the other day. They're like 7th or 8th in the West by most predictions.
Really?
When they were 3rd last year, and they added like the EuroLeague MVP from last year, who could be like a sneaky guy for them.
Yeah, I did see that.
But I don't know.
This is like you could put anybody. I'm gonna let you pick number 2.
There's a long list of teams you could go
I'm
here.
gonna be better with the middle.
For pretty much anything. I'm going to be biased. I don't care. I'm taking the Lakers at 2. Okay. Big Austin Reeves jump this year. You know, everybody's waiting for it.
You think Anthony Davis is going to play over 55 games?
I hope so. When he played last year, he was dominant. If he played like 70 games last year, I think he would have had a real case to win MVP. He had stretches where he was averaging like 40 and 15. It was some of the most dominant basketball I've seen in a long time.
He gave me a lot of headaches, though.
In the playoffs was like having one of the best defensive playoffs of all time before he ran into Jokic and who's guarding that. So so I would put them at 2. You know, maybe Cam Reddish takes a jump with them. Who knows? I don't know. I'll go Phoenix at 3 because the talent at the top is so good.
Really?
Katie and Book are so good, man. They're both top 10 easily, I think. I think Book gets disrespected a lot. He was like 4th in MVP voting 2 years ago, and then he missed a lot of time last year. Okay. So I think Book is that guy at the shooting guard spot. And I think Phoenix with Beal there is just – they're better than last year. You swap out Chris Paul for Beal. I mean, like, that's just undoubtedly an upgrade. Okay. I don't know how you can argue that.
Fair. I'm not arguing.
You know, I think they got a little more depth than people think, too. I like a lot of their depth.
I do. I've been talking about
they got Eric
depth.
Gordon. Josh Okogie's pretty good. Bol, you know. Keita Bates-Diop was a really good three-point shooter last year. I like Chimezie Metu. Always been a big Chimezie Metu fan. Yeah. Dating back to his time with Sacramento.
I remember watching those games
for a couple years now. I liked him. He's an alley-oop catcher.
Yes, he is.
And I don't know. I think Phoenix is pretty solid. But I'll throw it to you for number 4 because I took Phoenix at 3, which I can tell you don't love. So
I don't love it as much, but you know what? I mean, you laid out some pretty good backup for that, so I will give that to you. That at number 3.
Okay, I'll give you 4. You can have 4.
I think 4 has to be Golden State, even though I don't like Golden State.
I don't love the Chris Paul fit.
I know you were talking about that, but I mean, they're always there. They're always up there.
They're always there. He's going to be great off the bench too. If that's what they do.
If that's where they put him, I think he'll be managing that second unit really, really well.
I mean, historically, right, they're awful whenever Curry has come off the court for years. Even when KD was there, when Curry comes off, they dropped kind of off a cliff, just like net rating-wise. So if you get Chris Paul there, someone who can really manage the second unit, I think it'd be great for them. Could be kind of like a better version of what Sean Livingston was for them when they were really good. It's just kind of like this pass-first guy off the bench that can really help the guys score off there. So I think the Warriors is fine at 4. And I know you love the middle, so I bet you want to talk about all these playoff teams.
The middle,
I
see. Oh man, I just see so many names here.
There's a lot of upside for sure.
There's a lot of you could argue for 5. You could go all the way from Dallas. You can go Clippers. You can go Memphis, and you could even say Sacramento, and then a wild shot here
You're talking about Minnesota?
Number 5. I wasn't going to say Minnesota. I was going to say Utah having a historical season at 5.
I've seen them predicted as high as 6. People like Utah. At least some people do.
I saw on ESPN the other day, a lot of people in the comment section was saying that they were going to have a great year.
I love Lowry.
People are really high on them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of their guys are young, right? So they're going to be better. Walker Kessler, I think, is probably pretty clearly going to take a step. Getting John Collins for nothing is great for them. Maybe he takes a jump like Lowry did for them last year. He's a guy who maybe didn't get the right opportunity in Atlanta. Jordan Clarkson's still a 20-point-per-game guy. My biggest doubt with Utah would be is that they don't really have a point guard. After they moved Conley, they don't really have a point guard.
Colin Sexton not a point guard?
Well, I mean, we saw with Cleveland, they preferred an actual point guard like Garland. Sexton, maybe not really a traditional point guard. And their other option is what? Like Keontae George? as a rookie.
You were talking highly about Keontae George.
I like him, but he's not going to play the point guard right out the gate, right? Chris Dunn was sneaky good last year.
Chris Dunn, yeah. I remember watching those, like, late season.
Yeah, and, like Simone Fontecchio is nasty out there.
Bro, they have some guys that are,
Lucas Samanic.
They're just out there to, like, get minutes there, and they're, like, actually hoopers.
Yeah, classic THT 40 pieces as the year winds down.
Let's go. We love those, like, middle of the week THT 30 bombs.
Yeah.
Just a typical Utah.
Do you want to take Utah? If you want it, I'll give it to you.
You know what? I honestly, let's put Utah at 6.
Okay.
So Utah goes 6. At 5, I'm probably gonna say the Clippers. I have the Clippers at 5. I'm sorry.
You think? I think it's a Russ bounce back year.
I mean, Russ.
He was good in the playoffs.
This is us being like positive for the middle teams.
Mm-hmm.
If with the new rules, like George, Leonard, and Westbrook, like if they run everything well and they're on the floor, I mean they win games statistically. They play. They just have not played together.
Maybe Harden's coming in too. Who knows?
Maybe. We'll see.
I'd prefer Brogdon for them probably, if I'm being completely honest. I don't know how Harden fits there really.
I don't think he would.
But KJ Martin is cool. He was a nice addition for them this offseason. I kind of like that sneakily. I think we have to go Sacramento at 7.
Yeah, definitely.
I really like Sacramento. I just don't picture them after what they did last year, like falling out of the playoffs entirely. Mm-hmm. They did have a lot of injury luck, meaning they didn't really have any last year. So probably to some extent there's going to be some sort of regression just because of injuries. But Keegan Murray is a guy who could really step forward for them, was great in the summer. So who do you want to go at 8? Are you feeling Memphis?
Well, I'm looking at this list and I'm like, there's
a lot of teams.
I let Memphis and Dallas slide out of.
I'm chill with letting Dallas slide. Their third best player is Grant Williams.
Do you see them not making the play-in?
I think they'll probably make the play-in, but that means you kind of have to kick someone else out because we have 3 spots here, and you have Memphis, Dallas, Minnesota, and Oklahoma City, who a lot of people think could jump into like the playoffs like outright this year. So that's 4 teams for 3 spots. And that's not even mentioning the Pelicans, who have Zion Williamson. And when he was healthy last year, they were the 1 seed. So I don't really know what you want to do here. But it's kind of 5 teams for 3 spots.
There's no way Mark Cuban is not spending this like during the season to get people to surround Luka and Kyrie. There is no way that man is not opening up his checkbook.
Do you want to go Dallas at 8?
Dallas at 9.
Okay, we can go Dallas at 9. I mean, Luka's that good, right? So he's going to carry them there. Kyrie was like 50, 40, 90 again last season. He's phenomenal when he's on the court.
And then at 8, you have to put Memphis at 8, right?
You have to, right? Jaren Jackson Jr. was awesome last year. Bane gets better every year. Marcus Smart should hold down the fort for a while. I really like some of their young guys too, like Roddy and Lofton. I think are both kind of interesting. So I feel like that's probably the spot for Memphis. And then I think, out of respect to Anthony Edwards, this should probably be Minnesota.
Really?
Yeah. Especially considering Cat played like no time last year.
Okay.
And then Jaden McDaniels is reportedly 6'11" now or something.
Okay.
I like
some
that.
Growth hormones.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, we're going to get angry fans now.
I know. Well, this is okay. We need
People
more
are not going to love that Utah one. I can tell you right now.
That's our
I'll get a certain demographic that really likes it, and then I'll get people that really, really hate it.
But we had to throw in one
a little
wild card in this whole thing. Like if we just made this video and we didn't have one.
I mean, last season, when they were trying, they were good.
Yeah, they started off the season really well.
So I feel like they kind of intentionally tanked it towards the end because they knew it wasn't their year yet.
Yeah.
But they could be better this year. Who do you want to go first out?
OKC.
Yeah. Probably a second-year jump from J-Dub, who was, awesome last year. And Shea is, probably... And honestly... Shea's a top 10 player, so...
even though we have them listed out, if they even get up to the 8th seed, I would not be surprised.
I think they could get higher than that. I wouldn't be shocked if they finish, 6th.
I
really like OKC. They're young. I think that's still going to be the biggest question with them, is just their youth.
Yeah.
but Giddey's great. Micic, another former EuroLeague MVP, coming over for them. And Chet will play this year, so we'll see what that looks like. I think probably it's New Orleans here.
Yeah.
Right?
New Orleans.
I think New Orleans is the move here. And then I would say, although Houston's trying to get better, these would be kind of like the three more young teams that still probably need a little more time before they really hit their stride.
Because I told you before, I said I had Houston at 12, but then you convinced me with the Zion, playing.
Yeah, probably Trey Murphy gets better this year, who they really like.
I don't want to disrespect Houston. I think that they are. I could see Houston getting even 11 if things go well.
Yeah.
I think over Portland, you have to put Houston at 13.
I think they have some of the best young guys in the league.
Yeah.
When you're looking at Green, Şengün, I really like both Cam Whitmore and Amen Thompson came in this year.
We enjoyed watching those Houston games a couple
Tari
years ago.
Eason is cool. They got a lot of guys. Jabari Smith Jr.
Yeah.
I would have got heated if I didn't mention his name. So
yeah.
Good summer for Jabari.
Yeah, fantastic.
You want to go Portland or San Antonio?
Portland.
I kind of like their lineup low key.
They
probably bring Sharp off the bench, right? Just looking at their lineup.
Yeah.
Because there's the Drew Holiday trade today. There's a lot of people talking about their lineup. Probably Scoot starts at the 1. I don't think there's any way Scoot doesn't start. Probably you start Simons at the 2. He averaged 28 without Dame last year. I think he could be really good this year.
Yeah.
Jeremy Grant at the 3 probably. And then I saw people saying that DeAndre Ayton wants to play the 4 and they want to play him at the 4. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of been a guy who's always a skilled offensive big man that didn't really get to show it. So I think maybe throw him at the 4 and then Rob Williams at the 5. And then you bring Sharp off the bench as your 6.
I wanted to make the point. You remember, I think it was 2 years ago when Simons first was making his start. He was 18, and he
coming out of IMG.
Yeah, he it was that January time, and I think Dame got hurt for the month.
Yeah, it was kind of like Simons and McCollum. Yeah,
and Simons exploded in his first 3 starts, and we were oh, this dude's legit.
He's kind of nasty.
Yeah. We were watching those games, and I think that he is. If things go okay with Portland, if Scoot is the real deal and makes an adjustment quickly, I don't mind them in that 11 to 12 range either. Mm-hmm. I would not I don't see anything wrong with putting them up there.
Yeah.
And all right, out of these teams, who do you say from the top 6 gets all the way as low as 10 if things go bad?
I think the most likely one is probably the Clippers. Just because Kawhi and Paul George are so unpredictable with injuries. And we saw it a couple years ago where they were in the play-in but didn't make the playoffs, I think. I think they lost and missed when Reggie Jackson was their best player. It was really bad times. Yeah. They were kind of down bad without Kawhi and PG. So I think that's the most likely. But I talked about it when I talked about the Clippers. I think they got way better kind of buffers than before. Because even if Kawhi and PG go out, you still got Russ and Norman Powell, who are both at least good. So it's probably Utah, realistically.
Realistically, probably Utah is down.
Maybe they need one more year would be the best.
That's the best argument for that, probably. Yeah. I'm looking at the top, and I could see Phoenix and the Lakers swapping through. I could see the Lakers as low as 4. That's just with.
I think they'll try to pace LeBron, probably, right? He's probably not playing 70-plus games.
I was gonna go with AD. I think they're gonna pace him.
They might do it with both. I know they can't rest them on the same night, right? There's some new rule that came out.
I'm sure they're working on some sort of
I think that it came out
that they're gonna figure out.
They'll figure out something with that because you just can't play both of them 75 games in a season. It can't happen.
Yeah, and so I see the Lakers as low as 4. If AD or LeBron get a 30-plus game injury, I see them sinking to 5 maybe.
Yep.
Phoenix, I could see them getting 2 if they are a regular season team. And I don't mind. Think about if Chris Paul adjusts really well to that situation. I could see Golden State up at 3.
They've even historically been a pretty decent regular season team. Even a couple of years ago where people were doubting them. Then they won the chip, obviously, but they finished like third place in the West, so they could get back up there. I think that's totally possible.
And then out of that 7 to 10 range, who would jump the highest?
It's either Sacramento or Minnesota to me. Because Minnesota, I think, with Anthony Edwards is really the wild card. Because Anthony Edwards could be like a 30-point per game scorer this year. He could be phenomenal. And then Sacramento, they just play really well as a team. So they were great last year. Best offensive unit in league history, I guess, by like offensive rating.
Really?
Which, didn't end up mattering. But I think Sacramento would be probably the most likely, and then Minnesota would probably be the second most likely. But it's like the deepest I remember the conference being in a very long time. Yeah. Like, it's just so hard to actually predict where teams are going to be. I think that whole group, 7 from 12, pretty much all of them could finish, like, top 5. That wouldn't shock me.
I see.
Except maybe Memphis. Memphis is kind of hard for me just because of all the time Ja's missing.
I think Memphis on this board has the most range. I could see Memphis getting like the 4 spot. I mentioned in the beginning.
It really depends on how they play with Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
That's huge for them. How they handle this first 25 games, I think, really kind of determines their season. If they're like 500 or above, I think they could be top 4 in the West. Because I think they're going to be really, really good after Ja gets back. But that makes it tough to predict them for a whole season. Because the way they worded the suspension, too, is that it's at least 25 games. Where he has these things he has to complete. It's the same as Kyrie's suspension was. Where there are, kind of stipulations in the suspension. So if he ends up missing more time even, then you're even more concerned. Jaren Jackson Jr. still has foul issues. Brandon Clark is going to miss some time at the beginning of the year. I heard Steven Adams should be good to go, though, so that's good for them.
That's a big piece. They do really well when Steven Adams is on the floor. Like, that is...
Yeah. I like a full season of Kennard with them, too. I think is great for spacing.
Yeah.
But it's tough. It's the best... I remember the conference being in a very long time.
All right, out of 11 to 15, who could be the highest on this? I have a name. I'll let you go first, though.
I think it's New Orleans. Yep, I just think if Zion plays, even 60 games, let's say he I think for his career he averages 30. So if he plays 55, 60 games, it completely changes how good this team is. But the biggest problem is that Ingram kind of has a history of injuries too, so it makes it very hard to predict that. But when their starting 5 is there, and it's like C.J. McCollum, Trey Murphy, Ingram, Zion, and Valanciunas, it's hard to stop that. It just is. Especially, they got Herb Jones as a great defender too. Like, that team is just very talented. So I think if they're at their best, then that's probably where they are. We could run through the same sort of thing with the East if you want.
Yeah, definitely.
I think out of this top 6, I feel like the most likely to fall is probably Philly. Because things could really, really explode there very quickly. Because Harden clearly does not want to be there.
Yeah.
And has been very open about not wanting to be there.
Where did Philly... finished last season exactly third, right? Yeah. I honestly, this is gonna be hating take. I see possibly the Knicks falling into that 7-10 group.
I think that's fine. I don't think that's a hater take. I think that's totally fine. Historically, Thibodeau kind of overplays his guys, and it kind of often happens where after a good year they'll kind of slip a little bit because their main guys are kind of gassed. Especially with Brunson and Josh Hart playing pretty much all summer with the FIBA stuff.
Yeah.
It could be a factor for them. I've talked about that with them. If you're looking at 7 to 10, I think the biggest team to jump is probably Atlanta. I love Quinn Snyder with that team. And, they made the conference finals, whenever that was, 3 years ago now probably. But Trey, at his best, is just a great player. He's very good. And it kind of depends on what he gets from the guys around him and a more efficient season from Trey, because a lot of his 3-point shooting last year is much worse than it has been in the past.
I'm not too worried about Trey Young because I feel like, he went under the radar a little bit last year, dropping off slightly. But we see that from guys every now.
He was good in the playoffs.
Every star is going to have one of those years, even multiple times it happens.
For sure.
And I'm not one of those people to write off Trey Young and the Hawks right now.
They kind of scared Boston last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Took them to 6, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, they did. I remember watching those. DeJounte Murray looked really, really good.
That's what they need from him. They need it for a whole season.
Yeah, he looked fantastic in those playoffs. I think I could see Atlanta going all the way up to 4. If on a super, super successful year, I see them all the way up to 4. And if they're in that 6 to 8 range, I think that's a very happy place for them.
Yeah, I think they're totally fine with that. Because the team as a whole is still relatively young. Outside of like Clint Capella would be like the veteran there. The rest of the team is pretty young. I think if you're looking at the bottom 5, a team that could jump is probably Orlando. We kind of talked about it before. I think Orlando's the biggest candidate to take a jump because their 2 guys at the top are that good. And Paolo and Franz might be arguably the best young duo in the league. Probably Tatum and Brown don't count as young anymore.
Yeah.
So I would say Orlando's definitely in the conversation. I just really like Paolo and Franz.
I have one question with Boston, though. I mean, they're going to be running a really small lineup, like right now. If they go with... If they want to run Porzingis at the 4 and Horford at the 5,
they could do that. But I remember last year Mazzulla was very hesitant to play Horford and Williams together.
And that's what I'm saying. So let's say they have either just Porzingis or Horford out on the floor. And then you go really small. You're gonna have like Tatum playing the hypothetical 4.
I mean, he's done that for years.
It
is small still.
I was looking today at it, like the mock lineups.
Yeah.
And I just was thinking to myself, I said, this is, like, really, like, small.
It is small.
And it's got a lot of offense.
Even their bench is small. Like, you look at their bench power forward, it's probably, like, Ashe Brissett or Sam Hauser, who aren't huge guys either. So, just the team as a whole is pretty small. Peyton Pritchard, little guy coming off the bench.
I'm a Peyton Pritchard guy.
Yeah,
I like him.
He's a
like
hooper.
He had
bucket getter.
He had that triple-double in, like, the final regular season game.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, in the summer before, he had like that 90 piece in a
bro.
pro-am. Yeah.
Dude, he's a hooper. He's going to get paid. He's going to get paid someday. I promise you that.
I think he got a little lucky, too, with the whole thing with Smart and Brogdon moving out, where it kind of makes him the third guard, which is what he's been looking for. He asked him to be traded, I think. He wanted to go to a younger team where he could get more minutes.
Yeah.
But I think he'll get more minutes this year with Boston.
Honestly, I think in a couple years, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent, and you're going to see him sign with, like, the Raptors or something for $80 million. He's going to get...
it's going to be like the Dillon Brooks contract.
Yeah, it's going to be something where...
I mean, Dillon Brooks is better than Peyton Pritchard, but Pritchard could improve.
Well, Dillon Brooks has had so much more time to, like,
prove
himself on the court. Like,
Peyton
Pritchard, I just feel like he hasn't... he's had instances where he's allowed to go out there in the playoffs and even in the regular season to show what he has, but I still feel like it's limited.
I don't want to go as far as Brunson, but it could be a similar scenario where he finally gets some minutes like right before free agency, and then a team's like, okay, we've seen enough in this smaller sample size that we're going to let you do even more, and then he gets to that new team. And people are like, oh, it's an overpay, which is said with Brunson, oh, it's such a bad contract. Yeah. And now the contract actually kind of looks like an underpay, if anything. So you're probably happy with that if you're New York, and probably something similar could happen with Pritchard. But there are a lot of questions here in the East. What's Miami going to be? Is Cleveland really going to take that jump? Is it their time? Kind of the depth for both Milwaukee and Boston. There's a lot of different things, a lot of young teams that could be much better this year. In the past, we've seen young teams jump up. It's been pretty much 2 years now, where Sacramento jumped up last year, and then Memphis jumped up the year before that to top 3 seeds, in the West. But we could see that happen again, whether it's in the East or in the West. But I don't think we have that really predicted right now. Utah's the closest prediction to that.
Yeah, Utah's our dark horse.
The wild
coming
card.
In.
The finisher coming off of his military service.
Yes, I saw the picture. He was hype.
Yeah, he's done.
He's done. And I think in the East Atlanta's a big jumper. We said it can go to 4. Orlando's going to be, they might jump up to a playoff spot. And we also said Brooklyn. We also mentioned Brooklyn
Brooklyn's
earlier.
Sneaky.
Brooklyn could be all the way up to 5 and stuff. So I think that's our big jumpers.
You want to predict the finals teams real quick?
Finals teams. I want to say in the Western Conference, I think that it's conference. We'll start with conference.
Sure, we can do conference finals.
Okay, conference finals. I'm going Suns Lakers.
Okay.
They're
love Denver's depth this year.
I just
a lot
feel,
of Hunter Tyson minutes.
I really feel like a team like the Suns might knock out,
catch them off guard,
like
even
the Nuggets in the playoffs, and so I'm going Suns Lakers in the conference finals, and then up here, this might throw you off a little bit.
Sure.
But I'm going with Milwaukee and Miami.
Oh, Miami again?
Miami again.
Miami's
gonna find
like
a way. That's my.
I hate their backcourt, except for Hero. I actually low key like Hero.
Oh, Hero's nice with it, bro.
But the rest of their backcourt is
I think they're the best coached.
Running out Jamal Cain is going to be a big guard for them this year.
Don't worry about what they have. They're going to whip something up. They always find a way.
More Haywood Highsmith minutes this year.
Yeah, okay.
He was fine in the playoffs last year. He was fine. No diss on Highsmith, I guess. I'd go chalk in the East. I think Milwaukee, Boston is the easy choice over there.
It's not.
And then in the West, I'll take Denver still. I really like Denver. And then I'll give it to the Lakers. I'll go Denver Lakers rematch from last year.
Okay.
And I think maybe the Lakers this time have enough. I think the Bucks would be my finals team from the East. I just love the Dame Giannis pick and roll.
Lakers Bucks finals.
Yeah, I like that. I think a matchup of Giannis and AD meeting each other in the post is kind of exactly what I want to see. I remember back in 2020, Giannis was winning MVPs. Lakers won the finals. People are like, "Who's the best power forward in the league?" And now they kind of thrown that out the window. Said it's Giannis hands down.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see the matchup still. And there's no one on their team that could guard LeBron.
I don't think so.
Because you're probably running kind of like a double unit at AD. It's probably Giannis and Brook kind of both handle that. And then you say, all right, Chris Middleton, coming back off that ACL tear still. We're going to put you on LeBron and pray for the best. So I'm not sure Dame can even guard Reeves. I
think we're a little too far looking forward.
A little ahead of ourselves.
Trying to figure out who's going to guard who in the finals. I don't even know what they're going to run out in the preseason.
A lot of Taurean Prince.
But I think the big question mark we have right now is how will Amani Bates stack up in the playoffs?
Amani Bates, starter in year one.
Starter in year one. Just go out there and chuck up any shot. Shot-creating point guard is exactly what Cleveland needs.
Isaiah Mobley steals his brother's spot.
Yes. The question marks. I think I'm a big fan of Isaiah Mobley's interviews that he had in Summer League. What a guy to get interviewed. Just absolutely, just a positive, enthusiastic guy.
Yeah, Sam Merrill could be the sharpshooter.
Oh, dude, Sam Merrill, Utah State.
The Cavs Summer League team was nasty,
Yeah, bro. Oh, that was fun to watch.
All right, I think that's probably about it, right? I think we've covered the standings. We've covered some playoff predictions.
Yeah.
That'll probably be it for us. You have anything you want to shout out this time? It's been a while.
Shout out Sam Merrill, Utah State.
Shout out Sam Merrill, Amani Bates, and the boys.
Shout out Sam Hauser, Virginia.
Peyton Pritchard,
Oregon.
We like him.
Peyton Pritchard.
Keegan Murray, friend of the pod.
Keegan Murray, if you want to join the pod, come on in.
All right, but I think that's it for us. You guys have a good one. Think about subscribing on the road to 1 million.
Road to 1 million.
Peace.